It's now my pleasure to introduce Professor Ann Anderson, Professor in Finance.
Good evening. Tonight's theme is the diversity that you may not be aware of. So as I thought about this, I thought I'd talk to you about my view of diversity. I think one of the problems that we have in the world today is diversity is measured in very specific ways. The diversity of gender, the diversity of race, the diversity of religion. And I think by measuring it this way, we miss some very important parts of diversity. We say diversity of thought, diversity of value, diversity of beliefs. So I'd like for you to imagine for a minute, if we weren't so focused on appearance, how your life would be different. All right? Imagine for a moment that you were blind, and you were meeting someone for the first time. Would you talk to them differently? Would you even give them a chance to talk? I think because sometimes we're so focused on appearance, we miss the opportunity to truly get to know the people that we interact with. Now for the students in the room, let's take this to another level. Imagine that you were interviewing for a job. But when you interviewed, the interviewer didn't know if you were male or female, black or white, Asian, Indian. The only thing they knew about you was they had your resume, they knew your last name, and they were able to ask you questions. How would that interview be different? Would you be able to show them more about what you truly could do, your true abilities, or would you be because oftentimes we're so focused on what we look like and that first impression that we make, we're not able to share with people our true abilities. Right? So would they hire you? And when they hired you and they removed the wall and they could actually see you, would they regret your decision? I imagine that one of the reasons I'm in front of you today is because I'm a woman. And Jordan wanted a woman on the panel, and that's okay. Right? But at the end of the day, I think we all want to be picked because we did the job well, not because of who or what we are. Right? I was just talking to a friend a short while ago, and I think oftentimes in life I feel like I work harder. I work harder because I want to make sure that when I get promoted or I get a bonus, it's because of the work I did, and not because someone says she got promoted because she's a woman. I spent a lot of time in my life working in fields that women aren't typically working in. I went to the United States Military Academy and I graduated in 1987. So I was in the 7th class of women. Now when I say I graduated from the Military Academy, that's the first thing someone says. You were in one of the first class of women. I would say, no, I graduated from the Military Academy. I still did the work. Right? In the Army, mostly I led men. But my job was harder because I was a woman leading men. I had to prove myself. Right? Why did I have to prove myself? Because they saw me as a woman, not my abilities. Right? I'm here in academics now after many years of going and doing different things. And I'm grateful that my parents never said to me, you can't do that because you're a woman. My parents encouraged me to do the best that I could in anything I tried and didn't tell me not to try. I was the youngest of 4, and I'm the only graduate of college. And I'm happy about that. My parents are proud of me. But if I never went to college, my parents would still be proud for who I am. There's a man who wrote a book called Good to Great. His name is Jim Collins. And he examines companies that didn't accept as being good, but really worked to be great. This was written many years ago. Many of the companies in that book are no longer even in existence, and they're not great anymore. But he talked about the characteristics that made a company great. One was leadership. You need to have a great leader. And a great leader is someone who recognizes the strengths and weaknesses in their people and knows how to use them to that advantage. The other thing a great company does has a hedgehog concept. A hedgehog concept is something that consists of 3 parts. The company figures out what they can be passionate about. They figure out what their utility or their economic drivers are going to be, and they figure out how they're going to get it done. So oftentimes in class when I use this book, I tell students that they should have a hedgehog concept. You should figure out what you're passionate about. You should figure out what drives you to do the very best you can, and then you should go do it. Never should you ask yourself, well, if I go do it, am I going to be the only woman? Or if I go do it, am I going to be the only man? Right? The key is you have to be passionate about it. And if you're truly passionate about what you are doing, you will be successful. But how do you define success? Oftentimes in the world today, we define success by how much money you have, or how big your house is, or how nice the car you drive is. I would argue that success is what you make of it. And my goal each and every day is to hit my pillow and be able to say that I did my best at whatever I did. It doesn't mean I necessarily accomplished everything I set out to do that day. It just means that I did my best at everything I did accomplish. I don't say, well, I could do better tomorrow. Why didn't I do that? Or I should have thought of that and done it differently. If you are truly successful, you will know it. It may not be that the people that you're surrounded by know it, but as long as you have defined your success, then you're okay. So let's go back to that moment where you're blind and you can't see the things that are in front of you. Would you behave differently? Would you have different friends than you have today? Would you be with people differently than what you are with today? It is human nature to judge others. It's just the way we are. We look at someone, and the first thing we do is we come up with an opinion of what that person must be. But if you couldn't see them, you can't form that opinion. So one of the things that you have to do is you have to figure out, how can I get beyond my own appearance and let people see the true me? So are you willing to share your ideas? Or are you hiding behind your appearance? Are you willing to listen to others' thoughts and views without imposing your own thoughts and views on them? Are you willing to take a chance and talk to someone that you wouldn't talk to because they don't look like you or act like you? And if you did, would your world be a better place to live? So imagine if instead of measuring diversity by how many men and women were in the room, we measured diversity by the things that we could change because we worked together to make them better. We actually shared our thoughts, we listened. We didn't wonder who was Democrat, who was Republican. We didn't wonder who was Muslim, Catholic, Christian. We just listened. And we recognized that people are different because they can be. It doesn't take having a mix of people in the room to have a diverse crowd. What it takes is people being willing to not go along with the crowd, but to be themselves. And sometimes it's the hardest thing. It's hard to step out and say, I'm not going to do that when everybody else is doing it. But I think you'll find that once you do it the first time, it's easier to do it the second time. And then when you do it the second time, you just saw the movement in the video. Once you do it once, you'll have someone come to you and say, wow, I'm glad you actually said that. Or I'm glad you did that. Because you did it first. And then next time when you're willing to step forth and share your idea which is different, they're going to share their idea which is different. So what I would say to everyone in the room, find your passion, figure out how to achieve it, and don't stop until you do. Don't let someone say that you can't do that job because they don't hire at Lehigh, or you're a woman and that's a man's world. If you truly want to do it, there are many role models out there doing many different things. You just have to find them. And you have to learn from them. And you have to be willing to accept their differences and know that appearance isn't everything. What matters is how we use the talents that we're given and how we recognize the talents in others. There's diversity all around you if you open your eyes and see it. Diversity is not always measured in percentages. I would argue that diversity is measured in action and how we work together to make it good. Thank you.